Hello, I'm Nil Gravity, and this is going to be a reaction video to Matt Pat just put up one about the Dark Avengers, and I thought it was interesting, but there was a few things I wanted to talk about that he didn't get to. I guess I could call this part of my series initial reaction, but I don't want to look up the title sequence and stuff, so this is probably just going to be like a one-off thing. The first thing I wanted to talk about this is that to recap, in case you don't want to stop and watch the Matt Pat video, he on Film Theory, Matt Pat was saying that he thinks the new Black Widow movie is going to set up the second phase, which is going to be around the Dark Avengers. And people who watch a lot of comic book YouTube stuff have probably already heard a variation of that theory, and I tend to agree. The Dark Avengers were like an evil version of the Avengers. This might be a little bit more nuanced for the movies because it might kind of bring in government control and some other aspects. They could really tie it in with a lot of things. There is a blonde version of the Black Widow, and Matt Pat's theory is that this other Black Widow is going to kick off Phase 4, and that's why the Black Widow movie is going to be important and not going to be put directly to streaming, and that she's the Yelena Black Widow is going to be the first member of the Thunderbolts, which is the other name for the Dark Avengers. And it makes sense, too, because the other former member of the Thunderbolts that was in the Black Widow trailer is Thunderbolt Ross, who in the comics becomes the Red Hulk. He also talks in the video about how Baron Zemo is seen in a promo for Bucky and Falcon show wearing his purple mask, and he was the creator of the first group of called the Thunderbolts, which doesn't really make sense, but I'm including him because he was mentioned in there. But one thing that stood out to me as weird in Matt Pat's video is when he was talking about all this Thunderbolt stuff and how these characters from the Black Widow movie, specifically the second Black Widow and Thunderbolt, or aka the Red Hulk, there is another former member of the Thunderbolts that's in that movie. And if you look at this image from the Civil War comic, this group of the Thunderbolts had Taskmaster in it. So Taskmaster, who's going to be in the new movie, is a member of the Thunderbolts. Now I think the reason for that, I didn't watch Matt Pat's other video on who he thinks the Taskmaster is. He might not have included Taskmaster, but a Taskmaster or something could be in it, depending on when this movie takes place. But another member of the Thunderbolts that's also in this image that I should include is this guy right here. That's actually Venom. Okay, so it's kind of confusing. So there's the symbiote and then there's the human underneath. The symbiote has been a member of the Thunderbolts on 2 different occasions. Eddie Brock did not have Venom as a Thunderbolt, but Mac Gargan, who appears, he's the guy with the scorpion neck at the end of Homecoming. He was in the Thunderbolts and the Dark Avengers, and also Flash Thompson from Spider-Man. He was on the Thunderbolts too. As Agent, when he becomes Agent Venom. So I don't know how likely they're going to include Venom, but I thought it was interesting to know, and I just like Venom. So another member that I thought to include on this is Ghost. It was actually a male version of the character. One of the versions of Ghost did appear on the Thunderbolts, and it is the same team that had Venom and it's a pre-mutation of the team that had Taskmaster on it. Taskmaster was on the team very shortly. The main reason I'm including Ghost in this list is because, one, there was a Comic-Con announcement of all the movies that were coming out for Marvel, and I'm not sure if this was ever an official title, but at some point there were rumors that the new Ant-Man movie would be called Ant-Man versus the Masters of Evil, which is yet another name for the Dark Avengers and Thunderbolts, without getting too deep into the history. That's close enough to accurate. So it makes sense that that Ghost would be in the next movie. So it really got me thinking about villains who who were in the comics. And another one is Whiplash from Iron Man 2. I like this character, and I like Iron Man 2 and 3 more than a lot of people. So he'd be an interesting include. So one of the Dark Avengers that's really well known is is it the Iron Patriot? It might just be the Patriot. Anyways, I'm blanking on his name, but it's basically a dude in an Iron Man armor. For the movie, so Matt Pat's theory is that this would be Norman Osborn because that's who it was in the comic. But I think what would be nice is if they brought back Justin Hammer and had him in it, even though he was never a Thunderbolt. I was just thinking along the lines of villains who exist. My cat snoring. I hope you guys can't hear that. All right. Another member of the Thunderbolts I saw when I was checking a list to see if I was forgetting anybody was Bucky. Bucky was, aka the Winter Soldier. He was on the Thunderbolts at one point. So just thought that'd be interesting to note. Another member of the Thunderbolts that has not appeared in any of the movies is Genis Vell. He's the son of Marvel. Marvel. That was Annette Bening's character in the comics. It was a guy named Marvel, and he was the original Captain Marvel, and he was the one who Carol Danvers was in the comic was the human who first befriends him, basically. Okay, so another guy popped up is Ulysses Klaw. In the comic, in the Marvel Cinematic, I didn't think of him at first because in the Marvel Cinematic movie universe, he's dead. But in the comic, he becomes like a pure sound entity at some point. So there's like a couple things here. One, so when I saw Black Panther, one of the first things I thought was that it's kind of weird to cast Andy Serkis, who's known for his motion capture, as just a regular human. So, and he was great. There's no reason not to cast him in that. But because of what the character looks like in the comic, where he's just like this pure energy being who's kind of crazy and stuff, it seems like they could bring him back from the dead, or have like a robot version of him or something to kind of imitate that. So I thought that would be it'd be kind of interesting if all these like B-level villains from the previous movies came back and were like a bigger threat, and they didn't have the original Avengers to help them. I think that would be an interesting way to do Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So one other Avenger, or one other Dark Avenger / Thunderbolt that has appeared in the movies and is Deadpool. Deadpool's been on the Thunderbolts. Specifically, he was on the Red Hulk's team version of the Thunderbolts. So this could be how they introduce Deadpool to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They just bring him in as a mercenary. Basically, I'm not sure which of these characters they're going to use and not use. One thing I did, so I didn't do the drawing in here. But another guy who has lived in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was the leader. He was at the end of the Incredible Hulk movie, which is the same movie that General Ross first appeared in. But I have him on this like kind of final makeup. I was trying to figure out which Avengers were going to be in the next movies, even because Jeremy Renner is not. He might not come back as Hawkeye because he may have violated his. Basically, he doesn't have a good reputation right now, and part of their Marvel contracts is they have to keep up their public profile. You're not allowed to have any scandals and be in a Disney franchise. So I jotted down which characters I thought might face off against what character, which villain. So Baron Zemo and Bucky have history, so that seems like an obvious fight, and maybe that'll all play out in the Falcon and Bucky show. It's that I tend to think that's what it's going to be. I'm not sure if he'd be included in this group, so I put that there, and then over by Klaw, I wrote Black Panther because it'd be interesting for him to face off against an upgraded version of Klaw. By Venom, I put Spidey because that's about the only reason I kept him on here, and didn't go digging through other characters. The only reason I decided to include mentioning Leader, and it was at the last minute, is because I was thinking that they're probably going to keep the Scarlet Witch, and I kind of am using him as a placeholder for what villain would possibly be able to be an interesting challenge for her. And so she has mind control powers that they seem to have forgotten about since the second Avengers movie, and but it looks like they're going to be bringing back, and then he has mind control powers, and he's already in the movie. So by that same note, the Abomination could theoretically be in a new movie too. But so then the son of Marvel, Genis, part of the reason I included him was because I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel's going to be in another Avengers movie, so it seems to make sense to include someone for her to fight, and that was like the only Thunderbolt I saw on the list that could have been in there. I mean, they could really add just about anybody, and there are so many versions of the Thunderbolts that there might be somebody else on there that I'm totally missing. The Iron Patriot and the Whiplash, I put War Machine because Rhodey fought against both of those guys in Iron Man 2, and so they could do some callbacks to Iron Man 2 with that. And then, of course, Ghost has history with Ant-Man. So, yeah, I think if you... there's definitely a lot more set up. It's kind of interesting when you look at it, when it looks like they're going forward with this Dark Avengers storyline, it really shows how, I think a lot of people had kind of the feeling that they were going to sort of reboot everything once Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans were gone and everything. But if you really look at it, they can keep the story going and still tie it with the other movies pretty easily, just by bringing back some of these characters that were established in previous movies. So anyways, I just saw that Matt Pat video and I got inspired and I wanted to whip together something real quick. So that's why I just did these really loose sketches and kind of rambly video. I don't even plan on editing the sound, so like I normally would. So so take that with a grain of salt. I didn't even draw Taskmaster's hand on the bow. The bow is just floating in the air. That's how fast I wanted to just knock this out. And I've been working on animation, so that is taking forever, and I wanted it to come out monthly. So if you like this video and want to subscribe, I don't do this kind of thing very often, but I did have one about Cyborg from Justice League and how that character kind of ruined that movie. And I probably have some other rants in there, so you can look through my channel and see what else I've done that's similar. But most of my stuff is different. So, like I said, I'll only do more of this if this gets like 1 billion likes. So, until next time, remember there is no gravity. The Earth just sucks. Wait. I almost forgot. One of the main reasons I got excited about this is when I was double checking all my research, which characters were on the Thunderbolts. There is another character from the Thunderbolts who have been on the team, even though I didn't plan out the composition enough to include it. The Raft, the prison that we see them go into in the end of Civil War, that was actually the base of the Thunderbolts at one point. So that's another character that I meant to include all along, but since I didn't draw it on the thing, I totally forgot about it. So, all right, now until next time, blah, blah, blah.